Hi, everybody, and welcome to COVID Chats. Today I have a special episode for you with two guests. It's a one-time thing, so I hope you enjoy the treat. My two fine guests today are Josh Schaeffer and Alexander Gold. I met both of these gentlemen in the AEPi fraternity at Rutgers University. Before the outbreak, Josh taught low-income New York City public school students in the Bronx, and Alex was subbing in New Jersey alongside getting his master's in education. This episode is more of an interview style with lots of great facts and knowledge shared about how COVID has been impacting education. I'd love to hear your feedback as I continue to improve the format in future episodes. Now, without further ado, here's episode 4 of COVID Chats. Hello to both of you, Mr. Gold and Mr. Schaeffer.
How we doing?
We are doing well. Thank you for being on the series today. It's great to have you both here. I wish it was under better times, but this is my first two guest episode, so I'm very excited for that. So let's start off. I have a question for both of you, which is, what are some good teaching strategies to help support students during this?
I'll let Schaefer take the board.
Josh, take the lead.
I think the theme of what I'm going to talk about a lot of tonight, and I assume Gold will as well, is that it's kind of very up in the air. There's no real standardized plan, which means that it's a lot on teachers, but I think that, there's a lot of resources out there. Google Classroom is a great one. Code Academy is giving out 10,000 free scholarships to use their platform. Microsoft has platforms. A lot of people, just like this chat, a lot of people are using Zoom to actually have in-person instruction. So you actually have a traditional teacher teaching a lesson and, 30 kids sitting on iPads or phones or computers watching. So there's a lot of resources. My school in particular is mostly relying on YouTube, Google Classroom, and Zoom, but there are a lot of resources out there.
For sure. Yeah, no, there's certainly, we have to harness the technology that we've created in a positive way. And it's nice because, there's so much negativity on the internet, and there's so much negative use with a lot of this, some of this technology, not a lot of this technology, but now we can use it so positively. So that's really great. Josh, I'll continue with you specifically on this, which is, a big way students connect to class material is through being engaged in the classroom. So what does it mean to have to now teach online, and how are you, planning to keep students engaged?
Of course. I think that every school and every population has its own challenges. I think that my school in particular, I serve a low-income, high-need population. So even basic things like access to technology, access to reliable internet is a challenge. So I think that additionally to a lot of just the unnecessary burdens that the kids already face, just provide numerous barriers. Again, like I said, nothing like this has been attempted at the scale that it is. So honestly, I really wouldn't be able to say how well it's going to work. Right now, we're doing everything we can. We're calling families, we're calling kids, email reminders. YouTube has a limit of 15-minute video uploads, which I think is a good thing because lessons can't drone on past that. So we're really just trying to do everything we can to not make it, 40 minutes of a person lecturing into a webcam and then questions. We're trying to do projects, we're trying to do online simulations, we're trying to do interesting things. Again, you got to also remember these kids are, if they're being quarantined, they have a lot of time on their hands inside. So we're trying to provide them with fun activities that they can spend their time with. That isn't just them sitting there in front of me lecturing for, 40 minutes.
Sure. What's it been like so far? What's the response been like? Positive, negative, mixed?
So the way at least New York City Department of Education public schools are working was, again, this was very last second. As I'm sure you're aware, de Blasio did not want to close schools. It was mandated at the state level. So we were not told this was, we found out the schools were closing just like everyone else did at Cuomo's press conference.
Right.
So they essentially, what they did was they shut down school for a week. So there's been no school for this week, and everything goes live Monday. So we haven't actually rolled out anything yet.
Okay.
Just preparing. So I've been setting up my Google Classroom. I've been calling parents, making my videos. So on Monday, the plan is to go live with everything.
Got you. I did not realize that. So okay, well then I'll have to check back in on Monday and next week because I'm certainly curious. For both of you, like what would it be like if you were in high school or middle school during this? Like how would that be? Gold. What would you do as middle school Gold? How would you respond to online teaching?
I'm not sure I want to get in that headspace, but you know, middle school me, I think, would probably be ecstatic. I don't think you would really have a full comprehension of the circumstances.
Sure.
I'm sure Xbox Live would be very included in my daily life. And as far as from an academic perspective,
Yeah.
I would say that just to build on a little bit of what Schaeffer was talking about, it kind of varies district to district. So in my district, the one that I grew up in, I'm sure it would probably go off without a hitch relatively well. And in others, some even low-income districts, they have one-to-one, where you have each student receives a computer from the school. So in those circumstances, they're pretty well adept at adjusting to this type of environment, at least in terms of technologically.
Mm-hmm.
Probably, I mean, no one's prepared for this, but at least technologically, you can be somewhat prepared. But then I think about the schools that are in between, that, a kid who does his homework in the library, is he going to be expected to do his classwork and his homework, basically spend the entire day in the library? Or, and you can't really do that because then you're not going to be abiding by the social distancing. So it's kind of, it's a very difficult situation in which schools find themselves right now.
You mentioned before to me, Gold, you had some friends who are full-time substitute teachers. What's it been like for them? Do you know? Have you talked to any of them?
Right. Definitely. So I keep touching my face. That's, I feel like.
Yeah, I know. I've been doing it too. I'm trying to avoid it.
I'm gonna have to break the Purell out mid-interview here. But I was subbing about 3 times a week because I'm currently finishing my master's.
Right.
And obviously that has ceased. People who are doing full-time subbing, so you're actually subbing for a particular person. Let's say you have a teacher that's pregnant, or you have a teacher that is on some form of leave sabbatical, what have you. Those full-time subs are still in the school, still have to teach, like Schaeffer's teaching every day.
Right.
People who are part-time, unfortunately, you're not going to get any work. And there are some people who are part-time in the sense that they don't sub for a particular person the same person every day, but they do try to sub in the same district every day. I don't know what they're doing that it'd be very difficult to continue working in that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've seen some stuff. The federal government seems to now, they're going to be sending us some money every month. So, that should help a bit. I don't know, that hasn't been finalized yet, but it's moving through the process. So, that helped mitigate things a little bit, but certainly financial impact, will be big. For Josh, I'm curious, for maybe some of your more easily distracted or disruptive students, do you think being at home will allow them to focus on assignments better, or will people still find distractions where they do?
I mean, I think that the issue there really is that a lot of people view school as just a place to learn content. Especially, I teach high school chemistry, so it's very easy, chemistry and physics, very easy to think of, the value of school as the place where you learn your chemistry, learn your biology, especially as we get into these, junior, senior years. But I think that what people don't really understand is, the emotional value, the social learning that goes on. Again, especially for a lot of my kids who don't have the best home situation, or honestly are homeless, frankly, and don't have a home of their own, school provides a safe place. School provides meals. School provides, safety. School provides a place where there's someone that cares about you, can talk about them. And I mean, in my experience, 9 times out of 10, when you have a disruptive student, there's an underlying problem. There's, something social going on. There's something at home. They feel insecure about something. So I think that those problems without that safe place are just going to amplify. I mean, additionally, again, as we go through things, and as we work through it, hopefully the system gets better, and frankly, hopefully I get better at being an online educator, something that I've never been trained on or prepared for. But even things as simple as a 30-second explanation now has to become I have to schedule a Zoom call or I have to figure out how to do it. So frankly, I think at least in the short term right now, it's going to be a lot more difficult and it's going to be a lot slower process. Again, I hope that, as time goes on, I can become better, the students become more adjusted and it will improve. That's what we're all hoping. But I mean, honestly, frankly, I do believe right now, I think a lot of the problems are just going to get worse. And I think that, the barriers between myself and my students are just going to increase, at least for now.
Mm.
Ruben, do you mind if I ask Schaeffer a quick question?
No, by all means, yeah.
This is your first three-way, so I don't know if I'm breaking any rules here.
My first three-way. Yes, no, go for it.
Do you, is it true that I've seen online, but of course I'd love to verify that information, that certain school cafeterias in New York City are staying open?
Yes. So they're doing grab and go lunches.
Okay, nice.
So there are going to be a few people working, and for mostly high need school districts, students can come and pick up a boxed lunch at school time.
Okay.
It's not going to be every school, and there, of course, logistics. It might be, one school every couple block radius and certain times. So they have to figure out the logistics, but the main message is yes, they are staying open.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, I also saw something that, a lot of those grab and go lunches weren't being taken because there's this fear of, somewhat by the media, in some case, legitimately because of the virus, but like some of these grab and go luncheons haven't been taken because people are too afraid to go out. Have you seen that at all? I mean, I don't know if you've, you're now, you told me you're in upstate New York, you're not in the city, but what have you heard from your teachers or people working in the school about that?
Yeah, well, it's actually to address one of your earlier points. There originally were looking for volunteers to staff these grab and go lunches, as well as to staff some other services like childcare for first responders. But they're actually using full-time substitutes to do that.
Ah,
yeah, to try and provide them
Full
some
circle.
Wow.
Yeah, but I mean, it's definitely been an issue. I mean, the other issue is getting the information out. So I think that some people are staying away out of fear, and I think some people are staying away of just availability or lack of awareness about the availability.
Sure.
Also, I mean, the quality of these lunches usually, frankly, if I'm being honest, are not the best. I mean, I've had students who have turned down lunches who I know for a fact have not eaten that morning because of the quality of the food.
Right.
So, I mean, I think that all plays into it, as well as, fear of, am I going to get on the subway to travel, get there, and I'm worried there's not going to be anything there. So I think it's a mixture of all those things. I know for a fact they had it open this week, and not as many students that had it available to them picked it up. But again, we're hoping that improves as the awareness gets out, as students get it and tell their friends, no, come, we do have food for you. But I think it's mostly just awareness with the fear.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely, you're absolutely right. It's a mix of all those things. A lot of some of those students from those backgrounds, they've been let down before, and their trust that they're going to travel so far to come to school when it's closed to pick up this lunch, and maybe it won't be there, or maybe it's not going to be good. I mean, I went to a public middle school. Some of those lunches, I was very, very grateful that my mom had packed me something, because I just couldn't imagine eating that regularly. I mean, the federal government, pizza as a vegetable, right? I mean, there's so many workarounds to, make these lunches just quick and accessible, and the nutrition there, the taste is not put first. It's just really a terrible situation. Switching lanes a little bit, Gold, as a grad student and then also student teacher previously, you've seen both conventional teaching and learning disrupted at the same time. Which impact has been greater for you?
Which has impacted me more?
Yeah, which has impacted you more? Which has been more difficult to overcome? I mean, you are currently taking classes and subbing, right? I mean, how have you adapted?
Excuse me. So I'm actually, Rutgers is currently on spring break.
All right.
So I have had a couple assignments actually, because grad school professors don't really care if you have time off. But I was actually supposed to be in Spain at the moment.
Mm.
My brother was studying abroad this semester, and I feel terrible for him. Obviously, not the worst issue in the world. There are people who have the disease. That goes without saying. There are much worse things to have happened to you.
Yeah,
To happen to you, but then having to go home halfway through a semester abroad. But it is unfortunate,
totally.
and nevertheless. And I was supposed to be there right now visiting him, and unfortunately that got canceled. The president's Wednesday evening address did not help that situation whatsoever.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you guys saw, he had numerous errors, which, I mean, in something that was prepared, he was really literally reading it off a teleprompter. I'm not sure how that happens, that there can be not one, but a handful of mistakes, but it's okay. Well, that, we don't have to focus on that. But I would, what's that?
Let's not.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
A little bit of an aside there, but
Sure.
this made it, it made it extremely difficult for people to travel, and that's that's kind of what I was getting at. Like he was trying to get back home. He luckily made it. He's now in Tenafly with our family,
Right.
but the process with getting all the flights refunded and things of that nature was very difficult between countries.
So when spring break ends, which do you think is going to be more difficult? The fact that your learning is now online, or the fact that you have to teach online? And I'm not sure if they're making you prepare those lessons, or they're making the other teachers prepare those lessons, or what. But
right, probably should answer your question.
you see what I
Yeah, nice. Good redirect. So I would say that I can't imagine I'm going to be doing much teaching this, in the coming months, just because hypothetically, I guess a teacher, I don't know how that's going to be worked. If a teacher could take a sick day from a virtual classroom, I'm maybe Schaeffer would have some more insight into that, but I don't anticipate filling in for too many teachers. I would say that I'm going to be more on the student side, which is okay. It is what it is, but definitely a lot of Zoom. Going to be it's going to be a lot more discussion boards instead of in-person discussions, which I personally do not favor. And I think Schaeffer was touching upon this earlier, how going to school, obviously content can be important if it's taught the right way, but social skills and teamwork and there's so many other variables that go into a student's learning.
Right.
And just speaking through a computer is not going to help facilitate those skills.
Right.
So that's something that I'm kind of interested to see how that develops.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, so much of being in school is about being with other people in the classroom. It's like, we as humans, we learn by the people around us. If everyone else is focusing, it's easier for us to focus, right? There's always the reason people go to the library, right? It's like, oh, it's easier for me to pay attention when I see other people doing work. And there's obviously layers to that, especially in the classroom.
Right. And I think that also the way we're having a discussion right now is pretty good. But I think if the three of us were in person, I imagine it would be flowing a lot more easily.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the nature of human interaction. You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
especially think about the classroom. If I would come from it from the social studies perspective. If I present the Bill of Rights and we try to analyze them and discuss the differences between various rights in the First Amendment, a student could prepare an answer and write it out, and another student could respond to that prepared answer, but I don't feel that we're going to be doing as much learning as we would be if we were in person.
Yeah. I mean, it's to the detriment of learning. It seems like, based on what I'm hearing from both of you. I'm hoping there's some upside. Can either of you speak to that, or Shafe, tell me what it was like when this started coming down, in New York? Like, what was your response to that? What were the students saying as the virus was approaching as like a storm?
Sure. I mean, obviously leading up to this time, it's been on our minds. For a while, the popular meme culture was talking about everyone going to World War III. So that's what the students were obsessed about.
Right.
And then it transitioned to coronavirus. And I do believe that, this definitely caught me off guard. I think most Americans, we were aware of the situation. We heard about it. Every fifth news story would mention the cases in other countries, but I don't think it really felt real until the numbers started piling up here.
Right.
Something I really want to stress is the amount of chaos, frankly, in New York City in the Department of Education. Leading up, I remember last week, it didn't really feel. Throughout the week, something that we were tracking, but it almost felt like, okay, this is happening, but let's get back to our lives. And as other places started closing every day, I can only speak obviously to New York City, but every day, Blasio would come on and say, we are not closing schools. We are not closing schools. We're not closing hospitals, subways, and schools. He kept saying that as the three things we will not close. So we were kind of operating on the assumption that we're not closing no matter what.
Right.
I remember Friday was our worst attended day. We had about 50 or 60% attendance.
Wow.
My first period class had 4 kids, and we learned with 4 kids, normally a class of 30. But, we traveled along, and then, we were never told that was our last day. We left on Friday, and then over the weekend, Sunday night, we heard, just like everyone else, that, that was from, I think it was Bloomberg's conference, that was going to be, not Bloomberg. That was going to be our last day. And the interesting thing over the weekend, again, we were hearing nothing from our administration. We were hearing nothing from, the Department of Education. It was all just teachers. The teacher union was speaking to us. Teachers were video conferencing and holding, whole citywide Zoom conferences, but just the disorganization and just no one really understanding what's happening. We came in, we were told not to come in on Monday, so no teachers came in on Monday. We came in on Tuesday, and we were essentially told there's no guidelines, there's no information. We don't know if we're still taking state tests. We don't know requirements. We don't know what standards we're supposed to focus on. We were essentially, all we were really told was we are responsible for some direct instruction every day. Now, what does direct instruction mean? Video conferencing, posting a video, anything that is with us, that is our only requirement. My school in particular does not want to do video conferencing, at least whole class, because a lot of families only have access to one computer or one tablet. So if there's a middle school child and a high school child and we're doing video lessons, who gets the tablet during class time could be an issue. So if I post a video, one child can watch their video. Exactly. So, the main thing I want to stress is just there was no guidance, there was no guidelines, there was no systems. Teachers were told nothing until, they found out, just like everyone else, they weren't coming into school. And then they came and they were essentially told, okay, you have 3 days, put everything online. There's no guidelines, there's no recommendations. And I think for me, as a first-year teacher, this honestly hasn't been too disruptive because, I'm still learning, I'm still growing anyway. So, to learn this, I was learning anyway. But I think that, teachers who have been around 5, 10, 20 years, who are really gifted and amazing educators, essentially have to relearn all over again. So I think they're really the ones that this is going to be the biggest transition for.
Right. Especially because they're, not only have they been doing their teaching in, probably a similar way for a while, but they're also older and, understanding the technology and how it all works is a challenge as well. You think there's going to be a rise of, new teachers and things like that, young teachers? I saw online, for instance, this company OutSchool is hiring, which is essentially a teaching online class, virtual classroom kind of deal. And anybody can sort of become a teacher and create their own lesson plan. I don't know, have you heard about friends or other people who are, trying to become teachers in the wake of this, or?
I haven't, but I do think that raises an interesting point, and this is something you said earlier about looking at the positives. And this just doesn't go for teaching. I think this is really any industry. I think this is going to really show, what we can do technologically, what we can take advantage of technologically. I know, there's a lot of fields that essentially through this are going to realize, hey, 80% of my work can be done from home. And then I think with teaching, obviously, I don't think it can be done from home per se, but I do think, utilizing these technological resources in a way, and exactly like you're saying, I mean, I think that there's a lot of people who maybe don't want to be teachers, but could definitely prepare, a great learning module. Again, the Department of Education's expectation, as we were told, is we need to provide at least one, direct instruction a day, whether that's a video chat, whether that's a video. I've already prepared a couple of my videos for this week. But the rest we're trying to, obviously, use outside videos, whether it's Khan Academy, Code Academy,
Sure.
or resources like you said. So
Right.
I think that the positive is it really is going, it's forcing us to lean on our technology in a way we weren't ready for, frankly, would like to. But having said that, it really is going to show us the resources out there. It's going to force us to learn them. And I think it's going to push a lot of people to provide resources. And hopefully when this is over, I mean, obviously in-person instruction will continue, but we'll have a lot more of these resources available to us.
Mm.
Right.
Absolutely. I'm a little almost concerned about everybody going online now. I mean, in terms of our capacity, there's just definitely a surge and a spike in internet use and energy use regarding this. And, of course, people who don't have access are disproportionately affected. So, but I do try to see the positive with our technological resources, right? I mean, being able to talk to you both right now is kind of an amazing thing. Any more personal accounts about this? People, how have you guys both been affected, teaching and students and learning aside?
I mean, I can start. I think that, I mean, I also, like Gold, I also am actually getting my master's degree currently in education. And I mean, a major issue with that is my program is designed for people who are first or second year teachers. So a lot of our projects are built into our lessons. We'll submit a lesson plan as a midterm. We'll video record us teaching, trying out different techniques. Obviously, I'm not really sure how that's going to continue. I mean, I can't video record myself teaching a classroom, to submit an assignment like that. So I don't really know what the situation for that is. We'll see whether they create alternative assignments, or they just go ahead, or they don't give us credit for the semester. We've had very little communication.
Mm.
I mean, besides that, I think I've been affected like really anyone else has. I'm not going to work now. I don't get to see my kids, which frankly is heartbreaking for me. Yeah. I'm trying the best I can to learn new systems. I think one thing that is really nice to see, I mean, again, I know we touched on this before, is the amount of support online. I mean, all of these paid educational services have become free. A lot of technology companies are providing resources, are providing guidance. So I think that it is nice to see how connected we are, but it is definitely a big shift and a big adjustment to make.
Right. Huge adjustment. Yeah. I mean, talking about technology companies making their services more accessible, I literally, as you were speaking, got a notification from Zoom saying that they're removing the 40-minute limit on video conferencing. So, there we go on that. Gold, I mean, I know you talked before about your brother and his trip, and your canceled trip out there and his semester abroad. Anybody else or, how else have you been affected by this so far? And, I have to say so far because we got a long way to go. But
I know the timeline seems to change every day. But, aside from March Madness being canceled and really taking my morale to new lows, Rutgers, what could have been.
I know.
But I would say overall, I tend to be similar to Schaeffer and lean towards the positive. I have the EdTPA. I don't know if you're familiar with that, Schaeffer. It's a
Tell me about it.
it's an assessment that is required for all teachers desiring their certification in New Jersey.
Hmm.
So it is something that I need to wrap up. And if I was in Spain, I don't think I would have had the free time to work on it as diligently as I can now. So that's a positive spin
Yeah.
on the situation.
Less ability to procrastinate.
Right, exactly. There's
There we
you
go.
know, instead of saying, "Oh, I could go see Lionel Messi tonight," saying, "Oh, well, should I stream Love Is Blind or should I work on the assignment?" So it's a little easier to make the decision
Yeah,
than it would have been otherwise.
sure.
But it's I would say it's also disheartening that we can't do certain social events or gatherings that you might want in a situation like this, because I've seen a lot of comparison to 2008 in terms of the economic collapse and recession. But at least in the recession, you could go to the bar and drink with your buddies. Right now you can maybe if you're 6 feet away from each other, you could give it a shot, but otherwise it's a little bit isolating.
Yeah,
And that's something that we're all learning to deal with, I think.
definitely. Yeah, the invisible nature of it and the fact that it isolates us socially is really hard, because it's things that those are the types of things that you didn't think could be taken away, your ability to hang out with a friend. It's like, no, you really
Nope, please don't.
you got to flatten the curve, especially for people our age who are mostly, not going to be hugely personally affected by the disease if we got it. Yes, still some young people, there are recorded cases of young people dying, and it's not pleasant to have a bad flu, but, it's not the target demographic.
If you're out there watching this video, do us a favor and stay home.
Amen. Final thoughts, either of you? Schaef, Gold, anything?
I think exactly as Gold just said. I think that the responsibility of this disease and how it's handled, a lot of it really is going to fall on people our age. For the most, if you look at test rates in Italy versus South Korea, they essentially say that a majority of people between the age of 20 and 29 or younger don't show symptoms, or asymptomatic. You could have a mild cold, or either you could have no symptoms. And I think that it's I could understand the difficulty of taking it seriously or being not able to take it seriously when you have no symptoms. And it's really tempting to say, oh, well, I feel fine, or my friends feel fine. And, if it's just you, it doesn't present the risk. My mother, for example, has had some health issues, and she's one of the susceptible people. So I think that, it's very easy for me to say that and to think that, but I think that it's a lot harder for people to understand the ramifications. And, older people, I think, understand it. And obviously the vulnerable population understands it, but you're not staying home for you. You're staying home for other people. And I think that that's what we need to keep in mind. I know the images of the spring breakers comes out. I like to think that that is the minority. I think that the majority is handling this very responsibly, but I think that if you can say the one thing, it's this will be defined, I think, by how our generation handles it and whether we're responsible when, it's not our lives at stake.
Right.
It's a great point.
Yeah. Well said.
With the wealth of content available also to entertain yourself, I think it's, we're very fortunate that this disease didn't come around 30 years ago. In that sense, we can go online and there's an endless supply of movies and TV to watch.
Right. You might have had to read a book,
Who wants to do that? So please, Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049 back to back. I think that sounds like a better use of my time.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings trilogy, all of Game of Thrones, just like compressed.
8 Harry Potter movies.
Yeah, there we go.
The list is endless.
It is endless. All right, boys. Great talking to both of you. I'm glad I was able to see your faces and, get your opinions on this, on education, on students, on teachers, on subs. I mean, it was really a comprehensive conversation. I know it might have been a little difficult being separated from each other as opposed to being in the same room. As Gold said, it's not the most natural form of communication, but it's the best we got right now. So gotta appreciate what we have, right?
Absolutely.
Totally. Okay. Love you all. And let's talk soon. Episode 4 in the books.
Love to see it.
These guys.
Yeah.